good friend, Rhoda Green, who is the founder. She's really been the champion of the Barbados and Carolina story over the last 20 years and really brought a lot of things together. She has created a foundation called the Barbados and Carolina Legacy Foundation, which I am honored to be a part of. And we just discussed some ideas for this coming year, and I wanted to meet with her and have her discuss some of the things that we have on the schedule for the 2015. So, Rhoda, why don't you tell them a little bit about the foundation and what we might have going on?
The foundation is something that came into being because it became very, very obvious that we needed some organization to help push the story, the history of the Barbados and the Carolina connection along. Many people don't see history as a fun thing, but in my experience, living here, having come from Barbados, history is so real and there are so many aspects to it that it can actually come alive. So one of the things that the foundation is doing is providing an opportunity for people to engage and to look at the very many aspects of the historical connection. And we try to do it in a fun way. It isn't only for scholars, but it is for lay people who are interested in their family history, who are interested in the history of the place where they live, the connections with other people in the community. It's just a fun place, a fun way to learn about what history has provided us. So in 2015, what we hope to do, we hope to make connection, work with Barbados as we have been doing, because it's one thing to read a book and to get the knowledge in your head, but it is so much more meaningful when you have an opportunity to actually talk and interact with people who share a common history. It becomes greater and more impactful when you have an opportunity to visit. So one of the things that we're looking at in the beginning of the year, possibly in March, is to have a person that many of you have come to know. He is now Sir Henry Fraser. He has been knighted, but he is also a senator in the Barbados government and a retired doctor, but his love is preservation and historic colonial architecture. So he has a number of things that really play into the story of the connection. We're hoping to have him visit in March and give a lecture. And at the same time, we would like to do a number of things. Enable him to meet with people in the community who are interested in the history and look at ways whereby we can further strengthen the connection, because more and more is coming to light. In addition to that, we would love to make an announcement that is going to really impact the interaction, people-to-people interaction. Visit Barbados is willing and ready to have an announcement here, letting the people of South Carolina know that there is a direct flight from Atlanta to Barbados. It started in December, and at this March meeting, we would like to have a reception and an opportunity for Visit Barbados and Delta to share this information. I think people who are interested in the story and who would like to visit Barbados would love that opportunity. Another strand of the historical link has to do with music. And we have a Barbadian jazz director. He works throughout the Caribbean, Mr. Tom Hines. he has a jazz festival called the Naniki Jazz Festival. He has approached the Barbados and the Carolinas Legacy Foundation, and he wants to bring an event here. We're looking at making that happen. It probably won't take place until later in the year, probably late summer. But again, we're going to be able to explore the musical connection. And that is going to be a fun time. But it is something that Barbados has approached us about, and we'll do that. As we consider the music, there is also a strong affinity to sacred music under the Anglican Church, what you call here the Episcopal Church. We have a choir that is associated with the Barbados Community College that is also wanting to come and to have a sacred choir rendition or series of concerts. And we're going to be doing this in connection with the College of Charleston. There's the African American Studies program. Again, another opportunity not only to read about the history, but to actually interact and interface and to create opportunities of connection. We work very closely with the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor, and Michelle McCollum, a very, very great supporter of the connection, because the corridor deals with heritage and culture, and we are working very closely with her. And we have a surprise. Possibly we would have a trip of interested persons going down to Barbados at the end of the year. We'll be working out all of those details. But these are just some tangible things that we are doing to facilitate actual interpersonal, interorganizational contact and cementing or furthering the discussion with those in Barbados, where people can better understand what our connecting history has left for us as a legacy.
So now, one of the places that you can find out more about this too is the website, right?
Yes.
So, and you continuously, not only that, then you also have the Facebook page as well. So there's always information, and you also welcome more feedback from people, anyone else who could come involved. So how would people get involved and stay in touch with all these things that are going on?
Well, our Facebook page is very, very active. And sometimes we probably go a little bit beyond the, just the direct connection, because history has a way of sending out ripples. So we kind of focus on that. But you can look at the Facebook page. You can visit our website at www.barbadoscarolinas.org. And we have information and updates posted regularly. You can ask questions. We have an information email address. If you have information or you seek information, even regarding genealogy, which is a very a topic that a lot of people are involved in, you can send a question, and if we don't have the answer right there, we certainly will look and get the answer for you and get back in touch with you.
A lot of people who are going to come across this may not realize there's such a big connection between Carolina and Barbados, and the influence that Barbados had during this time. Just talk briefly about that. Excuse me.
The foundation, we really go back to the very early settlement. The people who learned and honed the skills of colonization in Barbados, who were British, they are the ones who, after having set up the governance, and after having had the experience of setting up a plantation society to to cultivate sugar, sugarcane. Uh, they used up all of the land. Barbados, a small island, 166 square miles, was deforested. They moved to other Caribbean islands, but then they were looking for greener pastures, for bigger land masses, and they actually had a number of expeditions, but the Carolina settlement, the one that landed at Albemarle Point, became the one that really took off. And the settlement here, the first 10, 20 years of settlement was pivotal because there was an ongoing interaction with Barbados. So the entire governmental structure that was set in place, the plantation society, how you run a plantation, and more than anything else, getting the enslaved to work on the plantation. That became the bedrock of what was established here. So that connection, that close relationship with the people in Barbados, many of them had holdings not only here in Carolina, but in Barbados. So there was a very, very close relationship. One historian said that the Carolinas resemble more a West Indian island than it did one of the mainland American colonies. So the families were related, and the system that was transported and maintained. And from South Carolina, they pretty much supported and sent back food products and things like that from South Carolina. So they were interdependent in that early stage.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize how wealthy and how much influence that Barbados was, one of the wealthiest colonies in the British Empire in the Western
Hemisphere. Yeah.
So, and if you go to Barbados, you're going to see all kinds of influence here. And if you come to Carolina, you'll see Barbados all around. But you wouldn't be able to know that unless you've been to both.
Exactly.
So that's why you should hop on that direct flight now from Atlanta and at least find some time to visit Barbados if you haven't been there, or come out here and visit Charleston and the rest of South Carolina. You mentioned the South Carolina National Heritage Corridor, which I'm working real closely with too on their South Carolina Great Outdoors project. Again, promoting natural and cultural resources. We've been able to do very well with that here, and it's something that we're going to continue to do, not only here, but also helping that influence in Barbados, and again, trying to help with some of the educational connections too. We are working on connecting schools via the internet.
Yes.
So learning technology, as we're learning technology right now and experimenting with different technologies that we can connect those continents. Again, when we realize that all these continents that butt up against the Atlantic Ocean were extremely connected in history, and people that don't understand that will overlook it. But there's so many lessons to learn from that, and there's also so many ways to grow from that. And heritage tourism and cultural tourism is just one of the many ways we can help the economies of all these nations that really are part of a larger story.
And the one thing that I think many people miss, because Barbados is small, out into the Atlantic somewhere, people don't necessarily look to Barbados or even consider that Barbados is part of this story. So attention has to be drawn to it. And the fact that from that island, so many things develop, various strands of our history. It is good not to see Barbados as a relic of the past, but as a place living and breathing, a place where history has evolved into the society that Barbados now is. So there's no better place to get an understanding of what occurred. Barbados wasn't set, there was no one on the island when it was settled, the British settled, but then it emerged, it stayed under British hand. So if you want a close look, and if you want to get an understanding of the evolution of what transpired during the colonial period to the present, without other colonial powers interfacing or breaking the trend, Barbados is a place that you can go and get that information. You can talk to people. Barbados's population is now 90% or more people of African descent. And they got the power gradually. It wasn't by revolution or anything like that. It is something that just kind of unfolded. And so Barbados is not only a place to go and look as you'd go back to a scene and try to find out what's going on. It is a living, breathing place with lots of information. And in order to get a good understanding of what transpired, and then what was mirrored here to some degree, with some differences, of course, Barbados is a place that you can go and you can talk to people. You can visit sites. You can hear the history there as it fed into the history that we have here. It's a great opportunity for history to come alive and for people to understand how history impacts them today, every facet, so many strands. So it's a great opportunity to see history through fun eyes and through fun activities.
That's one of the key things too, is that when we talk about history, we'll forget that it's also fun. We're making these events, a lot of fun stuff that's going to be happening. And there's a lot more to this story that we're going to continue to feed to you. And when I say we, I'm talking about the larger community, which also welcomes more feedback from other folks that can lock into this. So if you don't remember the website, just do a Google search for Barbados and Carolina, and I'm sure lots of things will come up. Look for barbadoscarolina.org and contribute there. Go to the Facebook page and go ahead and like the Facebook page. Stay in touch in that way. We'll be putting out information and books to read on this subject, and as well, the music part of it plays a really key role. There's so much music, and then don't forget the food that really influence both of these areas. You're going to find a lot of yourself. Believe it or not, if you're living in any of these countries, you're going to find that you are part of the story also. So there's a lot more to be seen, and we're excited about what's to come. So good work for what you've done so far, and let's continue. Don't forget all the rest of those Caribbean islands too that had an influence to it. Yes. It was great that Dr. Henry Fraser was able, Sir Dr. Henry Fraser now, that's right, that was able to bring a lot of these islands together, leaders of these islands who were interested in preservation, to come together at the National Caribbean Trust, which was one of several events that happened over the last couple of years. Some of the events that you put on as well, yes, to bring people down there, continuing this. So hop on board with us. If you can't get on board with the Barbados Carolina Legacy Foundation or the trip down there, go ahead and book your own trip to Barbados or book your trip over here and stay in touch with us. So any parting words for people that may come across this? Let's
join in with history that is alive. And let's make what's not yet alive come alive. We all have a role to play in doing that.
Let's have fun doing it.
Thanks.